Hello, welcome to the Pivot Ability Show. Today we've got Ishita Lalan. We met at a mastermind retreat a few months ago and we connected so well. We're very similar in that we're very spontaneous people. Her and her husband are in the boutique hotel mastermind with Rich Summers, and I invited her on so she could share her story. She is the most, so I joined another mastermind since meeting her, and she's in Asheville, North Carolina, and someone mentioned that they do Airbnbs in Asheville, and I was like, oh my gosh, you have to connect with Ishita. And whenever I sent him her page, he was like, oh my gosh, yeah, she's the best like short-term rental designer in all of Asheville. So of course I know her. Just so you know who we're talking to.
Oh my God.
Really impressive designs, really impressive outdoor spaces. So Ishita, take it away. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Carolina. Thank you for having me. And, it's fun to be in your podcast. I know when we met, you were talking and you were figuring out what you wanted to do. I'm so pumped. And you were such an inspiration yourself, always breaking the boundaries and, living on the edge. And I love that about you. And actually doing what you said, that's what most people probably fail at. Like they want to do a lot of it and they don't push the accelerator. So I'm so impressed and thank
It's
you for
all
having
about
me.
community. It had been on my mind for a while, and it really is because I'm in a community that pushes you and inspires you that, we're here right now. So I'm excited to be a part of it and be participating in my own little way.
I'm glad to be here and
Welcome.
have this conversation with you and for your audience.
Thanks. Okay, so from what I know about you, I think I want to start from like your younger days. I know you're from India. What state are you from?
So I'm from Gujarat, which is on the west of India. The nearest city, a big city, is Mumbai, which is 6 hours away from me,
Okay.
but it's a state called Gujarat.
Okay, nice. And that's where you did all of your schooling and everything?
That's where I did my schooling up till grade 7, and then I went to southern India
Mhm.
for boarding school for 3 years. So my 8th, ninth, and 10th grade was in a boarding school, and came back to my parents' home for the 11th and the 12th because I didn't know where I would end up for my university days, and I was like, let me spend time with my parents. I've not seen them for 3 years. Ended up being 7 years with them because my university happened to be in the same city as my parents were, so which was great. Yeah, so I've gotten the exposure. A boarding school really expands your horizons in ways that you don't even realize at that tender age that you are, from 13 to 16, where you meet kids from all over the world. I had friends from Chile, I had friends from all over India, so just getting to know different mindsets and different school of thought was huge in just exposure.
That's nice. My aunt had told my mom that she wanted to give me like even just a year in boarding school, but my mom was like, absolutely not. She is staying with me where she is safe. Going to boarding school is normal in your social circle or your family social circle in India.
Growing up and in my social circle, I don't think it was normal. But I feel like I have to give immense credit to my mom. I wouldn't say that she was like a person who was like super educated and whatnot. She was probably a university dropout, but she was a voracious reader. So be it magazines or so whenever she would come across, and then she would love reading biographies of like famous people who have achieved in life. And I think she took a lot of inspirations, and she was very progressive and ahead of her time. So whenever she saw something that would help her kids, she would be like, she'll take the plunge and she would want to adapt and embrace that. So that's what happened in my life. She saw the benefits of having someone go to boarding school. And I think my dad and my mom had a very good partnership, like raising kids, where my dad gave like the full control, like, okay, you do you tell me what you need. And they had a good balance between the two. So my mom took the decision that my kids are going to the boarding school and this is what it is. And that's how I ended up. I did not want to, I actually, she wanted to send me in my 5th grade. I was crying and howling and going to my dad as my secure space because I had heard terrible things about boarding school and I didn't want to be away from my parents. But she actually played a reverse psychology with me and my brother. So she started encouraging my brother, which is what, like a sibling rivalry. I would be like, okay, let me go. I want to be the first one going. Immediately overnight, my forms were filled and I was sent to boarding school in a month.
Okay, they were playing no games.
Yeah, they were playing no games, but
Yeah.
she was very adamant and very, I would say very strong woman. Like to see that, okay, my first daughter, let me send her like almost like 2,000 miles away from me. And she had the guts to do it, which probably it still shakes me. Like, how did you do it?
Yeah. What made them pick that specific boarding school? Do you know?
I think it had a lot. So, growing up culturally in the society that I grew up, my mom always wanted an influence of spirituality,
Hmm.
a religion that we followed. So it
Hmm.
was a religious school, a Hindu religion school.
Hmm.
Plus, we do not eat, growing up, we never ate meat. I still don't. I'm a vegetarian. So a lot of tours that they did for other boarding schools served meat, and they were like, no. This was like very Hindu religious school, which had great probably reviews, and also it was catering to their belief systems that they were believing, and that's what
Hmm.
helped them choose it.
What state was that in?
In Tamil Nadu, in
Oh,
southern India.
okay. Wow. Okay. How did you feel being that young and away from home? I'm assuming for the first time for that long.
In the beginning you're excited, like, oh yeah, let's see a different life. But I think it hit me the day my parents came to drop me and they were leaving. I was like, oh my god, I'll be by myself. I have no idea. I do not know a person here. I think I just remember being lost in the beginning, like, where am I? Because it was not my comfort zone. And then just embracing that, okay, take each day at a time.
Yeah.
I used to literally say that, when is my next break? When am I going back home? I would have like a calendar, I would have like a countdown, and I would really take each day at a time. But after the 10th day, I would stop counting, because then I've made friends and I've gotten into the routine what the boarding school, and that's what the beauty of boarding school is. It has a strict routine for you to follow. So
Mhm.
you get so immersed in the schedule, and then you start making friends, and then there are activities, and then you just love it. I think I today, if you were to ask me, I think those were like the best 3 years of my life, which have shaped me, molded me to the person that I am.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I should have had an interview like this when I was a kid so that my mom would have accepted being sent to a boarding school because that it does sound really cool. And I know a few people. One of my Indian friends, he went, I don't know if it was boarding school, but he went away for his last 2 years of high school. So that's why I was thinking maybe, but it was like a college prep set type of thing. And then I have another friend from the Middle East, and she came here for all of high school in a boarding school too. And I'm just like, wow. Like, no, being older now and thinking of myself then, I don't know if I would have been able to handle it really well, right? Like, just that distance and I guess the maturity that has to come from, being so far away from your parents. So that's impressive. Okay, so you ended up going to university in Gujarat by like in your city. What did you study? Was it anything creative? Was it design related?
Yeah, so I'm an architect by profession. So I did my bachelor's in
Oh.
architecture in my own city. So, I mean, my state is known for its architectural colleges.
Mhm.
And I didn't know I was getting into architecture. And it was like probably a year before my university life started that I decided, I think I'm tired of books and I want to get into a creative field where there are no books involved. And that's how I plunged into architecture. I think one of the biggest inspirations in my life were when my parents were building their home, and I used to see a family friend who was also a very renowned architect would come home and would have these 3D drawings, and the paper building would come alive. It was so inspiring for me, and I knew that was my calling was,
Mhm.
and that's the reason I took up architecture, and that's what I studied.
Wow. Okay. So that's nice. And did you end up going into work as an architect as well, or was there a shift after that?
No, yeah, I mean, I worked for 5 years. Sorry, it's a 5 year bachelor course, and then you do an internship. So I did an internship for a year, and then I think I was exhausted with architecture in general. But homes in India probably take 3 to 5 years to build and get ready. So I think I was losing patience a little bit, and I just wanted to pivot for a little bit. I think I had read somewhere that set designing was very fascinating profession for me, because
Mhm.
it had both, right? It had the flair of architecture interior, and it had like a fast pace that I was looking for at that point of time. And I started applying in set designing school, sorry, set designing firms, which is when I got an offer, and then I plunged into it. I moved to Mumbai and I worked as a set designer for 2 years before moving to the US. So that's my journey.
Did you have any wild set design stories from your Bollywood days?
Wild. I mean, growing up, My Bollywood is huge in India, right?
Yeah.
It's like in our blood. Growing up, my dad is a huge, I don't know if everyone here would know, but Amitabh Bachchan is like, I don't know, George Clooney, or even he's a one big actor in his time. And
Okay.
I've grown up listening about him, watching his movies, and I know how much my dad loved and adored him. And I entered my Bollywood career, and in my firm, the second advertisement that I had opportunity of building sets was for that actor. So I was like ecstatic, like to work with that high stature personality in
Hmm.
your second gig is not normal. And I rushed when I got to know that this is an actor who's going to be doing this ad. I rushed and I called my dad, like, Dad, can you believe what just happened? And I was around him for 2 days around the sets, and it was just mind-boggling.
Oh
So
my God.
you get starstruck, right? Because Bollywood,
Right.
but the set designing is not as glamorous as it seems. It is as tiring, and we are running every day, 16 hours a day, to make the movies and the films look.
That's what I'm imagining. Like, I mean, I don't know much about the Bollywood industry, but I do know that the movies are really long and that there's a lot of them. So it makes me think that it must be like go, 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 like on to the next, both with dance and with like the recording itself and all of the different scenes or like, sets. So,
It's like a heavy production. Like, I after being in that industry, I do not say bad thing about any movie, even if they don't perform that well on box office or any show, because I know the amount of work that has taken gone behind to make any movie. The only reason is like it's not only set design, but all the contractors, all the trades need to come together so miraculously to make that one scene perfect, right?
mhm.
It's the sound, it's direction, it's the ADs, actors, set design, costume design, weather gods, it's
Yeah,
everything coming together. Plus, movies take longer. Movie takes around a year and a half to two, depending what scale you're working on. But ad films are probably more like a week or two, and you keep on churning them fairly quickly. But before that, like our work starts even like scouting the location
mhm,
based on the script. Where are we shooting? Are we shooting in the same city? Are we going somewhere far? Are we going out of the country? Right? So all of those thoughts and research that goes behind to make that perfect 2-minute ad or a 3-hour movie, there's a lot of work behind it.
of course. No, that's a lot. But okay. So you said that after you worked there for 2 years before you moved to the States?
Yeah, so when I was working there is when I met my husband, and we connected. We decided that we want to be together, and that 6 month of our courtship turned into a wedding, and then I moved here.
Wow. How did you guys meet?
So my husband and I met through a very traditional, it was our families exchanging our what we call our biodatas. Is like, it is like a family Tinder probably.
Yeah.
But that's how we met. I think when you grow up in India at 23, more than your parents, your relatives are worried for you, and they start scouting someone for you. It's like everyone feels it's an assumed responsibility that you have to find your
Your
nephew and
person.
nieces a person, like the eligible bachelor in town.
Mhm.
It's like a scavenger hunt almost. But no, so I think one of my aunts got to know about Harshad. She shared his profile. She shared his profile with us. I was not interested. I was in at peak of my Bollywood career. I loved every bit of it. But I think um, I was open to having a conversation, because when I looked up, as a 24-year-old girl, 25-year-old girl, you're like scouting and probably scouting on Facebook, and I saw this guy jumping off of airplanes, climbing Mount Everest, and he had this vivacious life online, and I'm like, dude, I need to know this person. I don't care where life takes me. I just need to be his friend. Like, I need to understand him. How is he traveling so much? And then that's how we started talking, and that talks just became every day 2 hours. Like, we used to talk 6 hours straight. And it just worked out, and we somewhere, you just know that this is it. This is your person.
Yeah. Was he already living in the States at that point?
Yeah, he had moved to the States in 2004. He was here for almost a decade or more when
Yeah.
we.
Whenever you guys met. Wow. So it was his daring spirit that attracted you.
Daring spirit, and just like, the conversations. And then when you have start having conversations, that the wavelength matched, and what I was looking for a person, he had that. Yeah, It was just perfect.
That's so wonderful. I think one of the things that I like about, or what I know of the Indian culture, is that whenever you are courting, it's not just the two people, it's seeing if the two families can merge, right?
Oh yes, it is like two families coming together. It's not two people.
Did you guys meet first by yourselves, or was it like two family introducing themselves and then you guys got to know each other?
I mean, because he was here and I was back in India, there was no possibility of us meeting physically, but we were talking for a month and a half to 2 months by ourselves without families being involved. So we got to know each other better before the families were introduced in our lives.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Now that I know you guys seem to have a very great like working relationship and very supportive of each other. Actually, one of my favorite memories of you guys was Harsha telling me how your design got going in North Carolina and that you were not, I guess, as vocal about how amazing your designs were. And he was like, dude, like, look at your design work. Of course, people are going to be interested. And I think just that enthusiasm that he had for your work when he was telling me this story, I was like, man, this is so great. Like, it's such a supportive relationship. It sounds wonderful. So
Yeah.
your aunts did a good job.
True, right? Yeah, I think it was meant to be. A successful marriage is definitely about being supportive. I think there is no doubt about it. And he has been such a cheerleader. I just tell him that he's the wind beneath my wings. He just pushes me forward, like, just go, I'll take care of the back end. And that's why I'm able to do what I'm able to do, because I know that the fort, he's taking care of the fort behind, you know.
I love that. So I guess so you guys get married, you end up moving to the States. What was that like? Was there a culture shock? What was the biggest thing that stood out? And what was the acclimation period like too?
Yeah, I mean, grow again, you growing up in your thousands, right? Like, I was born in 1990s, but as you start understanding life, you're already in the millennial age. So you've seen the culture through the lens of movies. You've had friends who've moved out, who've come back. You've interacted with people, but still you've not immersed yourself completely. I had never visited United States until 2017 is the first time I moved came here to visit. But when I moved here permanently 2018, and I immersed myself in like work environment, definitely a cultural shock. In India, when you grow up, you are, as immigrants, when people look at you at the eye as an eye of an immigrant, you're molded in a way that you do your thing, be in your lane. As Indians, yes, education has always been our number one priority. So when you come here, you'll always see Indians in the highest positions of engineering, STEM degrees, or whatever. So keep doing, working hard and climbing the corporate ladder. But you're never taught to break the mold. You're never, you're taught to be safe and just keep progressing in that country. So that's what I came with. Like, okay, I'm coming here, I'll get a job for myself, I'll have a good job, comfortable job, and I will live my life. Cultural shock, yes, there were definitely plenty, because the way I was, I would think differently, probably I would talk differently, and I would not talk like I wouldn't relate it. Like, if I were to hang out with my colleagues in social setting, I think a lot of talks were about sports, and I would not relate to that. The topics were different, but then I think when you I just feel what I have in me is just making sure that what good to adapt. So there were a lot of things in this culture that I loved, and I adapted them. I embraced myself with that, and also staying true to where you are coming from and being proud from where you're coming from, and exposing people to where you're coming from. So I remember, I had my first job, and it was Diwali time in India, and
Mhm.
my office, there was no Indian, no brown skin, no other culture except for like Caucasian crowd around me. It was like
And you were working in an architectural firm?
yeah, this was an architectural firm in Iowa that I was
Okay.
working for, and there was no diversity at all. So I go there and I'm like, hey, go with like a box of sweets and Indian traditional sweets, and tell
Mhm.
them like what this festival is about, and it's beautiful to see them embrace that. They were not exposed to it.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty. Like, you embrace the goods and what you love about it, adapt in your life, and what you like about where you come from, and share it with everyone. And that's how diversity is spread, right?
Yeah. I grew up in a very diverse city, which is Houston, Texas, and I did not try Indian food. I was not like I knew Indians or I honestly I don't even know if they're Indian. I knew brown skinned people, but not closely, not intimately. I knew their name at most.
Mm.
I did not try Indian food until I was 24. And it was by one of my friends who's actually an African American, but he loves cooking international foods. Harrison, if you're listening to this, I love your food. But anyway, I could not stop eating that. It was this like coconut curry, and I was like, what have I been missing out on? Shortly afterwards, I started making more Indian friends in college, and then I was introduced to chat, and I was like, what have I been missing? Like my mind was blown. I think I had at least like 16 little puris like in one sitting. It's outstanding. If anyone has not had Indian food, you're doing yourself a disservice. And it's more than just curries, because that's another thing. Like, since we're not as exposed to this culture, the stereotype is that it's all curries. It's such a diverse cuisine, and it's outstanding. Like, sorry, I went on a little girl moment. I
All
just really
you need
like
to
the
do is take a flight to Asheville and come here, and I'll make sure that you have the best time of your life.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, I think there is a whole misconception around. That's what, when I moved here, there was a lot of misconceptions. And when I used to speak in English, they're like, "Oh, you speak really good English," and people are not exposed. Like, we've grown up in a country that we've like that was probably a second language, because my entire schooling was in English medium. So there were a lot of misconceptions that we had to break to understand. Like, okay, probably I was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where exposure of diversity is not as big as in some other bigger cities in the U.S.
Hmm. And how long were you guys in Iowa?
Harshad, my husband was there for probably 12 years, and I moved in 2018 up until 2022, so 4 years.
Okay. Okay. So I liked hearing, I guess it was an introduction, so I think it's a good segue for you said that whenever you're an immigrant, the expectation is to move to this new country, like put your head down, work, and climb the corporate ladder, right? Like that's low risk, high reward, I guess. Like
Yes.
you get security from that. What led you to change that pathway?
I come from an entrepreneurial background. My dad has been a businessman all his life. I have
Mhm.
seen taking him risks. I am very close to my parents, so we have had all sorts of conversations, and they're very involved with what I want to do. I do run by them if I'm thinking of any of my career changes, my life changes, anything. So, having grown up in an entrepreneurial house, you always have a school of thought that you want to build something of your own. And when I moved here, yes, the safest pathway is that, and sometimes it's also your circumstances. Sometimes there's a huge credit has a luck factor that it plays in your life. Sometimes you don't give that credit. It's not everything that I did. There was some luck to what happened to me as well, because when I moved here, I did not have a master's degree. My portfolio and my background was pretty strong enough, but for me to find a job right away was somewhat miraculous, because you don't really, the traditional school of thought is like, okay, get your master's degree and then you need to have so many credit points.
Mhm.
But I didn't have to do that. I got my internship. I think they very good firm in Iowa, which is where I always wanted to work. They hired me, took me under their wings as an intern for 2.5 months. And having a supportive and a very encouraging husband always told me how going above and beyond would always help you, and it does not depend on your master's degree. And that's what exactly happened. I think they recognized the above and beyond that I went, and they converted my internship into a job.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that was amazing. Eventually, I think what life I had envisioned for myself and my husband and I, the life I think we connected was on travel. The whole idea, and also growing up and having your entire roots back in India, the corporate world in America was, I found it a little bit restrictive when you have only 15 days of leave and you could not go. And because flying to India is not like a 2 hour flight, it really takes you 24 hours.
Mhm.
2 weeks is not enough when you're an Indian. You know how big of a families that we have. After, it's not only about visiting family, but what about, like, we love to travel. Like, I want to see the world. You
Yeah.
just don't have the freedom. You have a job, you have a high paying job, you probably would be comfortable, but there was no freedom attached to it, which is what was not very settling, which is why my husband and I, we were always looking for ways how can we financially independent. Like the whole fire movement
Hmm.
track is what we went into.
And FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retiring Early.
Retiring early, because our entire agenda was that we want to travel, we don't want to work all our life, we want to have enough savings that can allow us to have freedom of time and money. So that's what I think that's the reason that we pushed our boundaries and got into the entrepreneur.
So you mentioned something. You said the in like corporate America, you get 15 days, and honestly, 15 days is like a gift. You know, a lot of people get 10 days. What is the work culture in India?
It's even worse.
Oh my gosh. Here I was thinking you guys probably had it so much better.
No, I mean, it is much, no, it's much better here. At least you have 15 days of paid holidays. I think, see, I've never worked in a corporate situation because my background is not corp. Like, it's architect, it's design. So I was mainly in a smaller firm. But what you have is like around 10 days of vacation paid leave, but the working hours are horrible back in India. The expectation is that you come to work at 8 a.m. in the morning, but there is no leaving time at all. So there is, it's not an 8 to 5, it is like 8 to whatever, you know, you keep
Until
on
you're done.
wait till you're done. So literally, I used to work like in set designing. My work life balance was crap. Like I used to go at I wake up in the morning at 7. I used to head to work. I would come back home at around 9 10 p.m
Hmm.
and sleep and then go back again. And there were no holidays. Saturday, Sundays used to be the shoot days. And in India, even now, like working on Saturdays is a norm. You only get one day, which is a Sunday, which, you know, it just goes by in a blink. So work culture in India was horrible. The pay, you know, that's the reason you see a lot of people coming here abroad. And that's why you see a lot of people being comfortable with the W2 jobs, because you have great work life balance, you have great salaries. What more can you complain about?
Yeah, it's all perspective then, right? Because then you talk to like Europeans, right, who get like 30 days off minimum.
Holidays, 6 months
Yeah.
of maternity leave.
Did you say paternity leave? Oh, I worked at a French company, Danone. They do dairy products in their Texas branch, and they had 6-month parental leave, male and female, which I thought was a blessing, right? Because
That's amazing.
it takes work to get a baby like
For
into
sure.
a routine and everything. So yeah, I thought that was really great. Okay. Okay. I was wrong then. I assumed that maybe things were better over there,
No,
but
it's just it's worse there. Up here, and that's why I see why people not wanting to break. I'm not, see, each to their own, right? Not everyone is meant for business. Not everyone is meant for entrepreneurial. But
mhm,
I can see how comfortable it can get as well. Like if you're
yeah.
earning good money, if you have a good life, if you know that you're getting a weekend off, you know, as you work in stick around in the same company, after 10 years you might get 4 weeks or 5 weeks of, which
Hmm.
is great, right?
Yeah.
Like wonderful at that.
Yeah, I agree. There is something to be said about, having your security in your W-2 job. Like
For sure.
the only risk I think that exists is you losing that job and having to go find another one. But aside from that, like, you're getting paid every 2 weeks, unless you're commission based, and usually there's a base pay to that. You know what your schedule's going to be like for the most part, and you can expect growth, or at least you can see if there will be growth or not. So I don't knock on that at all. Okay, so what industry was your dad in?
My dad was in manufacturing. So he started his career with manufacturing table cookware, so utensils,
Mm.
silver and copper plated utensils. And then after I think 2 decades, he ventured into copper bonded earth rods. So anything that has to be done with grounding and earthing, electrical, he used to manufacture them.
Wow, that is two different things.
Very different. I do not like manufacturing at all. Yeah.
Oh, why is that?
I don't know. I think I've seen a lot of his ups and downs in the business. That's why it has never been encouraging for me. It has just been a lot of like mental stress for very, I don't know, very volatile career.
Hmm, I see.
Yeah.
I grew up with manufacturing, and I think the one thing that I don't like about it is that you have to be present, right? It is like if you're manufacturing physical products, I don't think you can manufacture non-physical ones, but you have to be like present in that place. And for someone who likes to be like constantly moving around, that presents a problem. So, you knew that you wanted to build some sort of business because you were seeking more freedom financially and time and everything. So, what
Mhm.
was the first step in that direction? What were Harshad's thoughts on this? Like, how did this come about?
Yeah, so our first, what really happened is when I moved to the US, for the first 3 months, I did not have any income coming in. I was just taking extracurricular activities and always being driven and career oriented woman. I have always earned my money since I was 21. It was very difficult setback for me when I'm sitting at home. And I think it was a tough pill to swallow for me where I was dependent financially on someone else. Even if it is my husband who I love to death, right? But it was still like a dependency factor. And I've always grown up with a seed that I have to always be financially independent, which is huge. I think every girl should be like financially independent. So a thought came to my head because Harshad, at that time we used to live in a condo which was a 3 bedroom home, and we were using probably one room in that entire condo, and we had other two spare rooms that were just literally sitting empty. We were not working from home. It was pre-COVID era. I was like, I suggested that why don't we start renting the rooms? So we started house hacking, which was an eye opener because in 3 months we were able to rent the other two rooms for the same amount as our mortgage was. So now we were living mortgage free.
Yeah.
And that money, even though if I was not going out and working, but it was somewhere a factor that, okay, that's a decision that I made, which is relaxing my husband somewhat financially. And we are able to put that money towards our travel. So we
Mhm.
were traveling extensively, not being burdened about like, okay, we have a mortgage to pay. And then, luckily, when stars aligned and I got a job as well, and I didn't have to enroll for my masters, and I started bringing in money at home. I think by that year end, we had like a pool of like a good chunk of money that was in savings because we were here, we were house hacking, both earning, both doing their jobs and
Mhm.
earning, which was an eye opener. And we were like, okay, what do we want to do? And that's how we started learning about this rental. The rental income could be really a great passive income to have.
Mhm.
And we started exploring multifamilies, we started exploring owning long-term rentals and renting them. We just started educating ourselves in that space.
Mhm.
And our first venture was a fourplex that we bought in our own city in Cedar Rapids. Um, yeah, and then we invested with a partner. We got our first fourplex, and from there on, for me, multifamily was like a no go because I just did not like it. I did not enjoy it. And
So this fourplex, you got it with a partner. So you
with
two
a
and a
partner,
partner.
yeah.
Okay. How did you
So
find your partner?
it was, I think. I think Harshad had met him somewhere and they started talking the same language and they just connected and they were like, okay, we are in this. Sometimes you're in this, your life are going parallelly and you just need that support. And then we just thought of merging the paths and just pooling in money together to buy something. It's better to have probably a bigger piece of watermelon than a whole grape, right? Sometimes. So it's
Mhm.
just that mentality that like, well, let's just put, bring in a partner and probably we can get this sooner than later.
I like that. A bigger piece of a watermelon than an entire grape. Okay, so why was this a no-go?
Well, so for me, it was. I think I just got tired of the renters, and we got an apartment in probably a C class, which we shouldn't have. And here I was. Not that you can do a lot creatively, but I was changing, ripping out the floors, and adding like nicer LVP paint, whitewashing the walls, and just making it more cleaner. But
Mhm.
then the renters would just mess it up. After 6 months, it would be a hole in the wall kind of. It's just like trash. They used to leave the rental in such a bad condition that it would just upset me, and like the problems were recurring. They were never ending. Like every day there were water leaks, basement leaks, and it was just never ending. And I just didn't enjoy dealing with that on day-to-day basis. And that's when I think I told Harsha that this is definitely not for me. What I enjoyed was the house hacking part of it, where and then I used to, while we were traveling and we were staying in these Airbnbs, and this whole short-term rental market came in our horizon. That wow, there is a way, like we are house hacking for a long term. We could do that same thing for an Airbnb. and I started learning about short term rentals. I took some courses about it and I ventured into that space, and that was the best thing that happened to us.
Okay. So, two questions. One, what is C class? And then what courses did you take?
In a rental apartment, you have A, B, C. You even have A plus, B plus, C plus. So it just depends on the location, the type of amenities that apartment. So an A class in that particular location would be at, depending where you are. But for Cedar Rapids, Iowa, an A plus would be rent from $1,800 to $2,000. A
Mhm.
B would be from 1,200 to 1,000. A C would be from 750 to 500. So
Mhm.
the income group goes lower and lower as you go alphabetically lower. So
Yeah,
then you are dealing with a lot of problems too, because either they are struggling to meet their ends, and then that is causing that just has a ripple effect on how they leave the property and the condition, and then you have to bear the brunt of it.
of course, of
Yeah.
course. No, that sounds, yeah, that definitely sounds upsetting because like I did some cosmetic changes in my house and I'm taking care of it and my tenants are pretty great. But if I left and came back and saw like holes in the wall, I know I would be really upset or like scratches on the floor. Actually, I came back once and we have a one of my tenants has a cat and the cat was like scratching at the sofa and that's just like something that I kind of thrifted. It was like 200 something. But I was like this was in good condition when I left, So I understand. Okay, and so you decided that you wanted to go down the short-term rental route, and I like how buying a course was like the way to go because I have been up until I think recently afraid to spend on learning, afraid to spend or really not spend, invest in what someone is going to teach me. And there is a lot to be said from just, paying to get the knowledge quicker versus like the hard knocks, right? So, how did you come across these courses and what were your biggest takeaways from them?
Yeah, so I think about courses, I think I was in a very similar boat as you. I was not believing them. I was just like, this is like just a tool for someone else to earn money off of us. And I used to think this is just gimmicky and they're just throwing a course to us and it might not have a valuable content to it. But I think my husband, he's all for education and he will not even think a minute before spending it for if it is for education. And I think that has changed my perspective a lot because I know what value it has brought in over last 7 years that I have been with him. Whenever he has invested in education or any mastermind or anything, the amount of value that it has brought in our life has been huge. So now I'm the biggest fan of it. But having said that, I think it was like an ad or some Facebook ad that we came across. This one, I think it was Brian Page, if I remember his name correctly. This was 7 years ago. I'm sorry if you guys want to Google him, please do. He used to be known for his arbitrage model in Airbnb or short-term rentals means you rent an apartment and then you sublease it, and then you make the difference between the two is what your income is. And I think at that very beginning of our journey, when we were just starting our life, not that we had a lot of capital sitting to invest in bigger properties, so we were trying to look for ways where we could get into a business with as minimal capital as we can. So this course was for like 1,200, 1,400 online course that we bought, and I think it was like a 3-day course that I took. And that's what started churning our wheels, that why don't we find a condo in downtown Cedar Rapids where we can rent the place and when we can sublease it. And back then, even $1,000 extra was a huge amount of money coming in, right? It's a nice passive income coming in,
Of
and they would just
course. I think
use.
even now.
Yeah.
Well, depending
So
on where you are in life.
right. So, I mean, for now, for at that time, it was just like if we kept on rinse and repeating, if you have 10 such properties, you would be gold because you have $10,000 of coming, and we would be reaching our financial goal that is, $10,000 a month, and we would be fine. So that's what the goal that we went with. We started scouting, we met realtors. Not very many realtors understood where we were coming from, because all the apartments have their own rules, all the apartments have their own policies that they do not allow to sublease midterm rentals. Eyebrows were raised, but the realtor that we were working with was she was a 60-year-old woman but very progressive, so that was great. She was like, she sat us down and she's like, what are you trying to do? We were like, and short-term rentals now, Airbnb came in play 2010, 2013. It
Mhm.
started gaining popularity. This is 2018. So literally 5 years, not very many people have got the grip of short-term rentals as much, because back then people were renting one room at a time, couch surfing, that was huge. I think post COVID Airbnb has picked up rapidly.
Yeah.
Like growth in short-term rentals post COVID has been way more than it was before. So we explained to her what we were looking at. We were telling her it is short term, it's on day-to-day basis rental, it's literally a house converted into a hotel, it's a bed and breakfast situation. So she understood and she walked us, why don't you walk down the lane with me? I have a house that I want to put on rent. See if that works for you guys. So we walked, and it was right. The location couldn't be perfect. It was right in the center of downtown Cedar Rapids. Good accessibility. It was a duplex, so it was great because now you can rent it three different ways, like a parent listing, which has like a 4 bedroom, and
Mhm.
then you list it like individual units as
Yeah.
well. And it couldn't get better. And since Harshad and I, we had jobs in very reputed firms, which she was aware of, she had some faith and trust in us. And after a week, Harshad being like a data guy and a numbers guy, he came up with all his research numbers, what he would do. And we presented what we were, and there came a collaboration. They agreed to partner with us, where they were willing to, you know, share the property as their share. And we were going to bring in our furniture with an investment of $15,000 at that point. And the profits were split 50-50 between the two of us.
Between the realtor and you guys.
Yeah, because it was her house. But we didn't have to pay any down payment. We didn't have to pay any maintenance. We didn't have to, we were just taking care of the management, like the day to day of Airbnb guest communication, cleaner communication. And we were invested in the furniture that we brought to the house.
Okay, so she was taking care of the property, you guys were managing the property,
Yeah.
and wow, that's wonderful. Okay, so this is just the first one, and what was the reaction after seeing the success in this?
So this was the first one, and I think it was back in 2019 is when we launched this December, and 2020, March, COVID hit. So we were like, oh my god. And I don't know why the first one just boosted confidence in us. And remember, like 2018, 2019, we had good capital on the side also getting saved because of two of our jobs, and the first investment was minimal investment, so we were ready to put another investment. So we literally took, after this property, we were not stopping, so we started researching the second market. We just wanted to push our boundaries a little bit more, so let's just go 30 minutes away from where we live. And we had a friend in mind who had moved to a different city and had a house sitting empty, or was looking for rental, and we were wanting to pitch the same idea that we did in Cedar Rapids.
Hmm. Was it also in Iowa or was it a different
It was
city?
in Iowa, 30 minutes. It was a neighboring city.
Oh,
So
okay.
we were just like, okay, we know the location. We just have to study a little bit of rules, what's going on in the city. We know the house, we know the people. Why don't we pitch the same idea, but and research? So while we were researching and we were doing the comparative study as to what the rental would bring, we saw a house which was, the best performing houses were sitting in front of the river, having riverfront views and whatnot. So we were just wondering, what do these properties even cost? Like what are the price point of these properties, like riverfront? While researching that, got to know that this was on market, this was for sale, and we were just like, right away call the realtor that we want to look at the house. Loved it. Was a 2 bedroom 2 bath cabin right in front of the river. Again, we took a big risk. Harshad, my husband, pulled his money out of his 401k, and we put it as a down payment on that property, and we were under contract.
Wow. Okay, so the money that you guys had saved up on the side was not enough
No.
for this property.
Yeah, not
And
enough as a down payment and renovations.
okay. Okay, and then also you're going straight into renovations, but I guess that's not that scary of a deal knowing that you have like a good background with architecture and like you've been exposed to construction
Yeah.
and the
So it
firm.
was not as scary. I could do it, but what really scared me, because compared to Indian labor costs, and now suddenly comparing US labor costs, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I was just literally 1.5 year into this country, so I was still in that point of comparing costs every second. So I was like, oh my god, I just don't know how we'll do it. And then COVID hit, and we were at home, both of us. We were working from home, and we just took the decision that, hey, let's just moved to that property. We literally quadrant off a section of the house where we had a pull-out couch, our 6 week old pup that we tried to bring in our life during before the construction even would start, and the two of us in COVID. We were painting walls, we redid the floors, we were doing it all. So we were like, we'll just be handy as possible. Let's just get our hands dirty, let's get this project done by ourselves.
Wow. So you didn't hire any contractors.
We probably hired contractors like, window guys, which we wouldn't be able to do.
All of the cosmetic updates and
All the cosmetic updates were done by us, all of them.
wow.
We painted the
Okay.
whole house, we put the flooring in, we did the feature walls, we painted the deck, everything. Like we painted the cabinets, we learned like every day was like how to remove popcorn ceiling. Let's watch a YouTube video, let's see what tools are needed, let's go to Home Depot, Lowe's, get those tools, come experiment, bleed, cry, get up, and then work and get the work done. And probably if the job is successful, have a glass of beer and jump in the river.
My gosh. And you're still working your 9 to 5 jobs.
Yes, we are still working 9 to 5. So we are working, but from home, right? We were not going to the office. We were working from home, and in the evening is what we were doing were the home projects.
I think that's very impressive. When I got my house, I was like, I'm doing it all. I'm capable. I'm going to rip down this wallpaper. I'm going to install this flooring. I'm doing it. And after 6 weeks of trying to get my restroom renovated, which is just tearing down wallpaper and painting it, I was like, I'm never going to get this done. And I think what really slowed me down personally was I didn't want to do it wrong, right? I am somewhat of a perfectionist, and so I would get stuck hours watching YouTube videos instead of doing anything and learning from my mistakes because I didn't want any mistakes. I wanted it to be done on the first time. Done right on the first time. So that's why I ended up hiring. So how did you guys not get stuck in that like analysis paralysis of like which is the best video or what is the best method to do this specific thing? Because there are also different methods of doing things.
It's a balance, right? Like Harshad is really good at analysis paralysis. He'll do his research, and what I bring to the table is impatience. So I don't have patience to wait for long. I'm like, just get going and get it done. We need to go live, and we had a lot on stake. We had a lot of our own personal funds on stake, which we were paying now, mortgage on, and we wanted to go live so that we can start bringing in money rather than burning the money. So
Mhm.
I think that kept us motivated a lot. And it was just COVID, right? So everyone was at home, and I think it was a nice side gig activity because it was just two of us spending time, and we are just like, okay, we'll figure it out. So the weekends we would try to do bigger projects which were more soul sucking projects, and on the weekdays we would try to do easier ones which we were confident on. And I
Yeah.
think it was just motivating the two of us. I think sometimes I would get stuck if it was just me, because there are a lot of thoughts that you have to, but if you have someone to bounce off of and you keep pushing each other, I just feel like it gets easier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to have a team. That's really good. And that you
Yeah,
guys are both like walking in the same direction too.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Wow. I got stuck on the fact a little while ago. You said the sentence like I had only been here for a year and a half, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it had only been a year and a half. She already got her like you got into that firm that you said you had your short-term rental at your own place, you had the arbitrage one, you had the fourplex. All of this was in a year and a half. So that really speaks to the action that you guys are willing to take quickly. Okay, so was this Riverfront? How long did it take you guys to get that live and up and
We closed on a Valentine's Day of 2020. So actually, the anniversary is coming up. But I think we didn't move until end of March. And we were live by August. So it took us like good 4 to 5 months of doing projects by ourselves and working simultaneously. And we went live September. September is our first guest work starting to come in. So it was great. I mean, we transformed that house. It was a woodlock cabin, and we made it into a very nice mid-century modern home. But yeah, I think what you said resonated. I mean, I wouldn't have thought about it. Yes, it has just been 1.5 years if you look at what was achieved. But I think that's what people get stuck on, right? Like, I've met so many people in my life that were like, I want to do this, I want to do that. I really do want to side like my cake shop or a bakery on the side. I want to start something on the side. But it's like the actions that they're not able to take. It's like, okay, let's just take one foot forward. And what happens when you don't have the courage? You back it up by excuses. You back it up by like, oh, I have some immigration issues, or I have some other issues, or I cannot move. And I feel like my biggest takeaway from how much ever we have done so far would be get out of your comfort zone. Like the minute you think you are in your comfort zone, and again, each to their own, right? Like, I don't know where one person wants to go. If you're comfortable and if you think this is the life you had envisioned and where you are, great. You've achieved your goals, you're great. But if you still think that you have more to go, then just get out of comfort zone, break the mold, and you have no idea the more opportunities that lie in front of you.
Yeah, and it's I was just talking about this with another guest that the opportunities come with the action. Sometimes they just show up anyway, but more of them will rein in as you're taking action, as you're doing things and sharing about it. Did you guys get to record any of this part of your journey where you were doing the live-in renovations and all of that?
Yes, we did. We do. Actually, we did a lot of Instagram stories back then. We did not, I think one of the biggest challenges that we've had is like consistency on social media. And that's the reason that we have not been able to keep up. When we get, yeah, we just forget about posting. And it's like a whole different job, right? Like social media is such like a full time gig, not shooting. You have to make sure that you edit it right. You make sure you have to caption it right, thumbnails right. There's so much that, and I think it was that 2020, 2021 when reels came out, and I was not even understanding how do you make reels. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so technologically challenged that it took me 2 years to figure out, oh, this is how the reels are made. I was definitely not keeping up with the trends that was going on and to use and maximize the algorithm of social media. But yeah, we do have some recordings of cool behind the scenes that we have recorded of each other, and our pup also wandering around and helping us being an electrician. And so yeah, one day we will reveal it out for sure.
That's okay, so all of this is still happening in Iowa, and you guys have moved on from these first properties to having more properties, having a management company. You recently closed on your first hotel. You're no longer in Iowa, you're in North Carolina now. You have an entire design business. And this is from 2021 to 2025. We're in January of 2025 right now. I know that's a lot, and I don't know if we can get into all of it right now, but can you, I guess, talk to us about how all of these things started popping up?
Yeah, so as we were working on our own projects, right, if we did a whole renovation ourselves, I think what Harsha did was take those photos, and there are these small little Facebook groups that all they were existing on short-term rentals. So he started posting them as what we did, and I think there were organically people asking as to who designed it.
Mhm.
And my husband would be like, she's my wife, she's a designer. And I was organically getting these inquiries for designing their Airbnbs
Nation or specifically in Iowa?
across the nation. So I worked on a project in Bend, Oregon. I worked on a project in Seattle somewhere. So those were some of the projects that I was just taking virtually. I wanted to sit at home. I was making mood boards and I was helping them. But any which ways, I think it was September of that year when we launched. And in October, what really happened was my work permit did not come on time or something like that. The whole immigration side happened. So I had to immediately terminate my job because I could not work legally. And I was sitting at home. I took 3 months off. And in that 3 months, I was doing like, I was helping a friend when she bought her primary home. She wanted my help to assist her design it. So
Mhm.
just by sitting at home, I was just helping her make mood boards and whatnot. And then my work permit came in, and I told my husband, I really enjoy this. And
Mhm.
I want to give myself a year, and both of us strategically took a like let's risk it. We have these two rentals, probably not at the same capacity as they were not replacing my income, but at
Mhm.
least something better than nothing. And he was
Mhm.
like, the cost of living in Iowa was enough for us to depend on his salary, so let's just take a risk. Why don't you take the jobs that are coming your way and see where this goes? So
Yeah.
that's what I did in 2021. Sat at home. Was Harshad was posting left, right, and center on various groups, which organically by word of mouth I was getting some business. And by that year end of 2021, I possibly made as much as I would in my full-time job. So that was it, and there was no going back. Even when I got my work permit, I never gone back to my job, and I continued doing. And year after year, 2022 became even bigger because now my work had more, like I had a bigger portfolio to showcase
Mhm.
to people. And again, there was so much word of mouth that was going. And on the side, we were doing our own investments too. So we bought a house in Destin, Florida. We bought a house in Ozark. So I was busy with those projects as well. And I think the pivotal point was our destined home in Florida, which we partnered up with great people, and there was a lot of creative flair which really exploded, and it caught everyone by wildfire, and I got a lot many inquiries from that one project. And yeah, and it just grew bigger and better.
I'm getting goosebumps hearing your story. This should be a movie.
And back in 2022 was again, I think that was a year we were going back home. And after COVID, finally, we were able to travel, go back and visit because it had been 3 years. We had not seen our family. We go up to India, we come back to a home in Iowa flooded.
Oh my gosh.
So there was a winter storm, and there was a pipe burst in our living room. And we get that notification when we are not even in the country. And we were 2 days away from landing back in the US, and we get to know that our house has flooded. So that's that. And in the meantime, I was already doing two projects, or one actually working and one in the talks. One was in the works of starting the project, both in Asheville.
Hmm.
So we were like, okay, and it was a first time dealing with insurance. It was first time dealing with all that comes with the flood. And we were like, we're still working from home. Why don't we go to Asheville, and why don't we start taking jobs up there? And I think again, it's just, this is the point where I want to tell everyone, it is about, had we been comfortable, because we were very comfortable since the insurance company had agreed for us to stay in our rental, which was the riverfront. They were paying for our ALE, which is what they would pay for our rent and all the expenses paid till the house was recovered. We would have lived very very comfortably doing what I was doing. I was making the same amount, probably more than my full-time job.
Hmm.
But the decision of like, no, let's just go to Asheville. I understand this will take some time. Let's explore a different area. Let's see what comes there. Move out of your comfort zone and push our boundaries. We came here, and it changed our lives even for better. I don't think I would have done as many projects as the capacity that I did here, because the minute I moved here, at that point, it is about the right place at the right time and meeting the right people. When
Hmm.
I moved here, Asheville was at its peak in short-term rental market. You are next to Tennessee, Gatlinburg, which is Smokies, is always at its peak, and it was at its peak in during COVID. I meet a realtor who is a very good friend of mine today, and we had probably heard of each other but never met. And when he got to see my work, he was highly impressed, and he kept on sending us, his business our way because of what he saw, that the caliber that we were able to produce, and which led us to be nomadic. We were nomadically living from site to site on every project site for 18 months, not getting a rental house, not wanting to be comfortable, really living out of suitcases and waking up to boxes and waking up to contractors.
Yeah.
And this is where we are. I mean, Asheville is now a home, and I think our business has grown 10x since we moved to Asheville.
Wow. Okay, and why Asheville?
I mean, I was doing two projects here already, so
Okay.
I came here to stage those projects,
Okay.
and then I get a call from a person who is a very dear friend and a client now, and he was like, "Hey, I'm buying a house which is 2 hours away from Asheville. I am going back to my country for 3 months. Can you make sure that you get my house up and ready?" And we were like, "Okay, we have nothing else to do as it is. We are dealing with the flood and insurance. We are working from home. Might as well work from Iowa or pack your bags and work from his home."
Yeah.
Our only criteria was, do you have Wi-Fi at home? Because we will need that.
Yeah.
And it was a new construction. We bought air mattresses. We bought like a desk and two chairs. That was our setup.
Hmm.
And we lived in his house for 3 months. We got his house ready while consuming other projects that were coming our way, and then moving to the other projects in that last 18 months that we've
Wow.
lived. We made some investments in this area too. And yeah, this is how it grew. And it has, and then we just fell in love with Asheville. It was, we fell in love with people, we fell in love with the place, everything about this place, I think, is the first time that we have chosen a place that we want, where we want to live in, and not the circumstances
Choosing for you.
choosing for us. I mean, it did, but then we chose to stay back.
Yeah, I still have to visit. I've heard since meeting you, for some reason, I now come across more Asheville posts, and I've heard that it's a really nice city to visit. So I will make it happen this year.
Absolutely. Love to take you around.
I would love that. So I think the last thing I want to touch on is why pivot into hotels?
I think hotels was like it's just taking a bigger plunge, right? Now we own 10 short-term rentals ourselves. I work on around 30 to 40 projects a year. So I see a lot we do see a lot of residential investments year round. Not that we are stopping that. But
And this
what
is
really
on
happened,
top of your management company as well. What is it called?
Five Seasons Homestays is our, yeah,
Okay, and this is US wide also?
US wide, yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, we have properties in New Jersey, we have properties in Sedona that we manage for. But I think what happened is our specialty as a designer is in, and why people come to us is in value add, and we are great with construction. So, and working on our own projects, the whole game of real estate is that when you get a value add property, you are force appreciating the value of the property, right? But what happens in residential is when you put all the work and effort in it, however good your property is performing, they will still compare on appraisal value, they will still compare it to other residential in that area.
Hmm.
Whereas in commercial, the appraisal value is based off of the income that property is getting and other various factors. So your multiple is larger than your multiple in a residential force appreciation. What do you call the strategy of force appreciation? It's a different. So you can probably take bigger plunges if you invest right. So it's easier to do a hotel than it's the same amount of work. It's like a 5,000 square feet hotel, or if it's a 5,000 square foot home, but here you're getting probably more value for your money.
Yeah, that's what they say. I've been hearing that a lot, that take bigger risks because the amount of work that it takes is the same.
Same. Yeah.
So if you take the most expensive risk you can afford,
Yes.
because the payoff will be greater by doing that. That's awesome. Well, I know that you guys recently closed. Where is this hotel? What is the timeline? How can people visit?
Well, the hotel is in Lake Chelan in Washington State, and it is a 13-bedroom hotel. When we bought, we're trying to convert it into 17, and it is a very tired, old-looking hotel, which we're trying to spruce it up and make it nice and bougie. But we are not starting any construction work until later half of this year, so we are closing it off for the winter season, and we're doing all the construction then. So probably in 2026 we'll have a big launch, and it's a great place. It's a great winery, wine country. So I would encourage everyone to go visit Lake Chelan and stay with us in our hotel.
Awesome. Yeah, let me know when this launch party is. I seem to be really liking these launch parties, so I make my way to them. Well, thank you so much, Ishita, for sharing your story and for being so open, talking about everything that you guys have done so far. If I was not already impressed, I'm extremely impressed now. I need to take some notes for my own things because I'm just blown away by how quick this growth has been and all of the action that has been taken on y'all's ends. Congratulations on that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we are just a call away. So if you need anything, we're here. And I'm so pumped to see what you're doing and wishing you all the best. And you will reach heights because you're taking actions. So I'm so proud of you.
So I want to take this moment to, if anyone wants to get in touch with you personally, where can they do that? And if they want to hire you for design, property management, or any of the other wonderful things that you guys do, how can they get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle is ishita.interiors. You can DM me there. Email ID is ishita@ishitainteriors.com. Probably I'll just put it on the chat box and you can add those links. But those two are the best ways to reach out. You can follow me on Facebook and just DM me and I'll be there.
Perfect. All right. Well, until next time, good seeing you.
Good seeing you too. Bye, Carolina.